Hey guys, it's Abe with Motor City Nerds, and I was debating on covering Dead City, and then I realized how I was behind an episode, but I'm really enjoying this, and I definitely wasn't on YouTube when we used to say this, but back in the day, my mom, my sister, and I, when we were watching The Walking Dead, used to say, this is exactly what we want from Rick. Every time he would go crazy, we do not want Farmer Rick. And when I say that or use that terminology, I just want you guys to know what I mean here. When we get Negan acting like Negan in episode 2, that's what I mean by that. Like, we don't want Farmer Rick, and Negan just proved it. We're going hard in the paint, and we're doing some craziness, and that's what we like to see from our lead characters in this. But another thing this thing is not doing is dragging. The Walking Dead had that problem of, let's walk around for 5 episodes. This does not do that, and I'm enjoying it. But yeah, I'm Maggie with Motor City Nerds. Hi to all the new subscribers. Hit the like button, leave a comment. It's free. It really, really helps me out. The algorithm is terrible. Hi to everybody who's new. But let's talk about these. Now, opening up with Maggie bashing a walker's head in like Negan, I thought was like very telling. And I'm like, oh, you've become this ruthless thing that you've hated. And we're seeing more and more of that. And then more in episode 2, we see her going, I see what I'll turn into if I continue down this path. But I also understand she has that rage of looking for her kid. So I can argue both sides where I'm like, no, showing somebody specifically in this world bash somebody's head in with an object similar to a bat is a very Negan thing. But we could also say, or she's just so frustrated with the loss of her son and so scared and emotional right now. Episode 1, we have Maggie. Ford, how much did you pay? How much did you pay? How much did you pay The Walking Dead on its opening episode of the Negan and Maggie show to have your Ford logo displayed so prominently? I think that things like that are interesting, but how much did you pay? That's what I want to know. But we have Maggie pulling up at this I almost said motor lodge. If you're from the downriver, you know what I mean. She pulls up at a motel, and we end up finding out it's kind of like a speakeasy. There's kind of a lot of illegal things going on here, illegal in New Babylon. And we have her getting in a fight with these people, looking for Negan. She finds him. They get into it. She's got him and this kid he's with, which, I'm going to say it, I feel like Negan and this kid had more emotion and stuff behind them than all of The Last of Us. That was such a snooze fest, and if you want to know what I say about that, you can go watch my video on why I say that. But we got Negan running around with this little girl, and Maggie snatching him up. We end up finding out, at first I was like, oh, Maggie's Marshall. Then no. Then we meet the Marshall gang, and I liked the way they handled that, and I like this character because I was like, he's crazy, he's wild, he's out here, he's feeding people to walkers and not even thinking twice, but he's kind of over the top and too much, where it's like, where do we draw the line in this world of that? Is Negan okay? No. Is the police doing it okay? No. But these characters are all evolving, so as soon as we got like midway through the first episode, I was like, oh, he's going to become a part of their quartet, he's going to become a part of the group, right? The fact that this wasn't dilly-dallying on anything was great. The Walking Dead really struggled from that. I took a break from The Walking Dead. Spoilers for The Walking Dead. I stopped for like over a season until me and my ex got a phone call that said Carl's dead. And we were like, what? We're back in. Because we are back in the boat. And then we started watching it again, got bored again. And then I came back when The Whisperers happened. And I was like, wow, they really revamped this. This is great. And then I watched all the way to the end. My mom never stopped. But this is not dilly-dallying, and I love it for that. We go right from Maggie getting into it with Negan, snatching him up, dropping her map. That's how they can find her. The Marshal showing up, feeding that lady to walkers, and then we have, boom, we're right back at Hilltop, or whatever is substituting for Hilltop. We give the kid to them, and then we're moving again. And I really liked this because sometimes The Walking Dead wouldn't address things, and I was like, no, because now there's no weight behind what are you holding against Negan to make him do this. You know what I mean? And I was like, Maggie, you still need your kid back. And then they address that later on, and Negan says it. He's like, I don't need you. You need me type deal. And I'm like, oh, good. We're saying things. We're outright saying them. My one issue is, but this guy's crazy. The Croat. Okay. Now, my issue with him is you would not keep a ward or a hostage of that level, that high up, the way you're keeping him. That's my thing, but I understand what you're doing. You're trying to scare the hell out of him. I'm thinking this Hershel might make a flip. I'm thinking that he's going to be like, I want to be with the Croat in New York, and Maggie's going to be horrified. I don't mind this villain. I don't mind him making like a torturous psychopath, but do we really have to have people with like saws coming out of their head and stuff? I understand what you're doing here, and in theory it makes sense, but I'm like, we just want the imagery, right? Like, that's what you guys want on screen, and I can respect that, but don't say it's for anything else other than like striking imagery. I even liked the little stuff, like Negan saying to Maggie, like, when are you going to get over this? And right before that, we see how much she still struggles with the PTSD from the Glenn thing. And she tells him, when you go through something like that, you don't get over it. You don't forget it. This is honestly not what I expect from this world anymore, but it is a little nuanced of, it's not outright in your face, but it kind of is. It's The Walking Dead. It's really popular. I get that, but no, we have Negan, who's changed how he is and how he behaves, and we have Maggie, who's realizing I'm turning into that, and she hasn't outright said it or anything like that, but that's what's occurring. That's just stuff I didn't think that they would really hone in on. It's like the flashback to Glenn and Negan outright saying stuff, and we really get bing bang boom, this is how these characters feel, instead of dilly-dallying with dialogue. We really got into it real quick. Then we move to the Marshals are on our tail. Snatched up one of them. Now we're on the move with a hostage, and let's go. We don't wait to get to New York. We're immediately getting to New York. Then him explaining how he knows Croat and how he was a member of his crew and was just kind of out there and wild. But we don't get the full part of that until episode 2. But I did like how we knew this guy's deranged. He's crazy. We know what we're going into. We know where we're going. We're there. Let's go. Honestly, I thought the falling walkers was really cool because that was something I had never thought of, because I immediately thought like Land of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead. I grew up in the early 2000s. Let's go. Even when Maggie was saying, oh, I think that smoke is breakfast and dinner. I'm like, no, it ain't. No, it ain't. That's either people getting burned, like walkers and or people getting burned in a crematorium, because or so many bodies he has from torturing. Like, it's either that at morning and night, or it's some type of event. It's some type of crazy event. And I was like, is there cage fighting? And I was like, I know this story and I'm here, but I really like the way they're doing it in this. But the falling walkers was something I would never think of. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. I don't think it would happen at that scale, but that was still a really cool concept. And that's what I meant. That's what I'm watching The Walking Dead for. That's a really cool, crazy concept. Then when we saw the zip lines, I was like, oh, that's a crazy awesome concept. That's crazy awesome. Because then it's like, if you know the terrain, if you know where stuff is a huge advantage here. And you have to know what it's like to swing across on one. And another example of Maggie refusing the help of others and becoming this solitary figure like Negan was, again, in the beginning of episode 2, when she's swinging over, doesn't make it all the way. And I was like, you are doing this all wrong. Haven't we all been to a playground and you got to wiggle, back and forth wiggle, and then you'll slightly move a little bit? I was like, you're doing it all wrong, Maggie. But when she refuses help from him, and he's like, man, you really mean it. Like, that was another thing. But the zipline stuff is a crazy concept, and that's awesome. That's a really cool detail. Oh, and I also have no idea if this attaches to comics or anything, but I like it. And yeah, because back watching The Walking Dead, I had a friend who had read every single comic, and so I knew kind of the big stuff. But this one, I don't know if it is or not. So if there's material on this, let me know if I just sound stupid. In episode 1, we go into the dry cleaner. We end up finding out the whole time we've seen this one marshal acting weird about New York, like weirder than others. And so I was like, oh no, he knows something else. Something's here, or he's from here, or something like that, because he really don't want to go there. We immediately have his buddy getting taken out in the dry cleaners. We have the hostage that Maggie and Negan end up getting taken out. And when Maggie stomps on somebody's neck, I was like, oh, you're going full bad right now. That's not good. We don't do that. Rick didn't even do that. He at least asked if they were people or whatever his little questions were before he went biting their throats out or being a psychopath. You're not even doing the Rick. You're skipping steps here. And I was like, man, they're really going there with these characters, though. They get out of the dry cleaners. The one guy gets left behind. And this was a really cool touch that they did, was when, even the way he's dressed, we have Rick in episode 1, the first season, being this like cowboy gunslinger-esque character of good that coming into the scene. Then in this one, we have like the villain in a Western showing up with this marshal. The music, his outfit, everything about that was like super hardcore Western. It coming in with the wanted poster, like that's all very Western-like. And I liked that, and I liked that vibe. And then we shift to, we're in New York, and it's totally different. And still, I was like, that was really cool. That was a really cool thing you had going there. Definitely has connections to New York. We end up finding out later on in episode 2, yes, he had people here. He gets the gun from that apartment. He sees that. He's very messed up. And we end up finding out, yes, he does have connections with this place. I don't despise his character. He's a little wild and out there, but I don't despise him. A really cool shot from the first episode was the old lady on the top of the building when they're first falling, and we see them looking over and then scuttling back. That was creepy. I really liked it. She intercepts them from the dry cleaners, takes them to her people in the second episode. They lock them up. We find out all about this bad guy and how he was with Negan, and why Negan got rid of him, and it's because he was just too much of a mad dog, and he's like, I didn't realize how much I did until I realized how screwed up this guy was. and then I shot part of his ear off. And then later on in the episode, we have one of the people that they're with calling him Van Gogh, which I thought was funny, and I liked it. After the marshal goes to the apartment, he gets snatched up, stuck in a trap, and I liked that part of it too, of Negan knowing in the first episode, saying like, no, go around, I know this, it's a trap, I know this, I know that. So the little things that he knows. It also reminds you of how vicious Negan was. The first episode did a really good job of that, until we get to episode 2. And we have them with this new group of people. They're very standoffish of them, they lock them up. And then we have the bad guys' crew, the little cronies show up. And we have Negan going full, I ain't no Farmer Rick on them, going back to the old Negan ways, going, I will display things so that you never mess with me again. He's pulling a full Bill the Butcher, and I'm always here for that. Now, this is going to sound terrible, but I know myself, and I can admit this about myself. If an apocalypse situation happened, this is a horrible thing to say, I would be the Negan. And I would have no problem with it. I'm telling you guys now, that would be me. I'd be going, no. If this is my only way of protecting people is making sure people know not to mess with us, I will make sure that they know it. I know it's us or them. I'm not going to have a problem going them. And I know it's a horrible thing to say out loud, but if nobody's going to admit it, I would. I also think, and I said this on my social media, and I realized how crazy it sounded, I wouldn't elect to do this. I'm talking starvation levels. I think I could eat a person, in theory. I would not want to do that, but I've told people that for years. I'm like, if we're on a desert island and I die in natural causes, please eat my legs if you have to. I would prefer you didn't, but if you have to, you can. So in theory, in my head, and I realized how crazy that sounded, I was like, no, I know me, and I know I would either end up going full Negan, but I do think I could eat a person. I would not want to do that. I would avoid it at all costs, but if it was the only option, I think I could do it. But I also think I could eat like a rat in a cage with me if I had to. I don't think people realize what starvation will do to people. Got that over with. When we have Negan going full Negan and smashing out windows and telling terrible knock-knock jokes and saying horrible, outlandish things, it's the best. It's the greatest. Like I said with Rick, we don't want you making farms on your prison. We want you biting out throats. This is what we love to see. And the fact that we made that flip so quick back and him showing Maggie, like, no, you better believe it's still in me. And her looking at him, because like I said, she's going, that's what I'm going to eventually become. I'm going to become the one thing I never wanted to be. And he's showing her, like, you don't want to become this. Don't become this. And it's great, though, and we all love to watch it on screen. It's fantastic. And Jeffrey Dean Morgan is so great as this character. But if you notice, it's after they lose the old lady. It's after they lost the person that brought them in and was showing them a safe haven. And he's over it. He's like, I've watched enough people die here. I've watched this happen for us. I'm done. I'm done here, and I'm going to let them know. I'm going to let them know once. He also knows this guy's got beef with me. So once they run back and say Negan's X, Y, and Z, he's going to solely look for me, not for them. Or at least that's how I took it. We also do see this Croat and his cronies. They don't show, but I do love that they did that because it makes the villain scarier when you don't see what they're doing to somebody and we just see this guy pop out into sunlight with all the marks all over him and then he's trying to get away and he's just counting like a sadistic, messed up person. And then he gets on the zip line and he just cuts it. I was like, I think it would take a couple more bigger bolt cutters than that. But I get it. I appreciate it. It's cool. I'm sure it's going to come back around, just like Maggie getting stuck before and not asking for help. This guy zipping across and now it's got cut. But I definitely do think there's something up with that. Hershel and this Croat are going to like sympathize with each other or something strange. But I did like that. It really shows you the character and how he is and how he treats human life. And it's not cool. Because we want to hate this guy more than we hated Negan. You feel me? And they're doing a good job with that. The one thing I am worried about is that somebody's going to die. And I'm assuming it's going to be Negan. But I definitely think that either Negan or... I don't think it'll be Maggie, but it might be. But one of these main characters is not going to make it through this series. Or they shouldn't, at least. But by the end of episode 2, we see that little girl taking off on a motorcycle, on a motocross. And I'm like, oh no. But they did they did say in one line of dialogue, like, your boat's gone. Your boat ain't here no more. And yeah, deal with it. And so it's like, oh, so somebody's established in the story of this going to this Manhattan Island, they've already destroyed your boat. So that little girl coming is probably going to be the only way that anybody gets off of this island. On top of, I'm assuming she's going to be needed. But when we see in the preview for next week, I don't know if I watched it fully, but we saw, because I have like the DVR, so it cuts off, but we see like hordes of people going into a giant dome. Or did they talk about that? And we saw it in the episode. One of those things happened. It's in my head, so I'm either making it up or it took place. But I was like, oh my God, Land of the Dead. And first I was thinking Dawn of the Dead, and I was like, I think I'm mixing up movies. One's in a mall, one is to the tower where the rich people are living, and one of them has cage fighting in it. And then I realized, oh, Land of the Dead is one with the cage fighting arena, right? And it's wild. And I'm assuming we're going to get something like that, but I'm here for it. And I think they've done a really good job with this so far. And I find it very fun to watch. And I was worried about that because of what happened with The Walking Dead. It went up and down, but at first it did come out swinging. And this is doing a good job of doing that. But I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds. I'm on OnlyF. I'm on TikTok. I'm on everything down below in the description. Oh, yeah. Tell me what you think about this. Tell me if you're enjoying it. And tell me if you could eat a person. No, I'm just kidding. Don't tell me if you could eat a person. I don't know. I just admitted that on my story, and I was like, I can't believe I did that. I sound like such a psychotic person. I know I would be a Negan.